All right. Hello, everybody. I believe we're up and running. So, this is today's episode of New Music Friday. Today is February 25th, 2022, and I've got some kind of cool, interesting news items today. This is my third attempt at the live stream format. I did it 2 weeks ago on my own, kind of as an experiment, and then last week I did it with my wife, Jana, and we had a lot of fun doing it. So, here I am again. So, I think this is been pretty successful, and I plan to keep doing it as kind of a normal thing because I think it works pretty well for this format, and it just gives me a chance to upload it right away to everybody so you don't have to wait for me to edit the videos and so forth. And there's kind of an interactive element. I'll try to keep an eye on the chat if there's anything in there, if people start popping in and whatnot. But otherwise, I'll just kind of give and deliver the show as normal. So hopefully you guys appreciate that. And so we'll get into today's news items. So this is the show where I just talk about the latest in Prog and see what's going on. Usually I try to narrow it down to like the top 5 headlines. So the first one that I wanted to talk about, kind of what I usually like to start with, is some of the new releases that came out today that are exciting to me and that I think you guys should check out if you're interested in the same kind of music. One that's kind of up over my head here is the new DiVirgilio Morse Jennings album Troika, which isn't really necessarily very proggy, but it's definitely 3 very notable modern progressive artists coming together to do something very cool. So definitely worth mentioning in the show. I'm going to be talking about this album quite a bit. I plan to do some kind of a short video on it. I plan to do somewhat of a maybe collaborative review with another YouTuber. So this should be kind of a fun album to cover. Of course, I'm a huge Neil Morse fanatic, which is no surprise to anyone. So of course, it's going to be one that I am going to enjoy, but very much more like 3-part harmonies, Crosby, Stills and Nash, kind of folky kind of vibe to it, but some great collaborative stuff happening between the 3 musicians. And so I just think it's a really great record to check out if you like these guys and their solo material and more of their pop singer-songwriter sides. I think this is a cool release. Other releases today worth noting, Rosalie Cunningham and her release 2-piece puzzle. She's a English singer-songwriter, former member of psych band Person. So that's definitely one I've heard people mention and talk about. I haven't really heard her stuff too much, but I'm going to check this one out based on recommendations from some of you guys out there who've mentioned it. The other release I was interested in, Kali Wallner, album called Voices. He's the guitarist and founding member of the bands RPWL and Blind Ego, so that should be cool. Kind of more, I'd guess, more kind of a modern sound, kind of like a Porcupine Tree or something along those lines, but very melodic and very good music. So that should be a fun one to check out. And then maybe not really prog related, but it seems like a lot of people who love prog music love this band too. Tears for Fears released their new album, The Tipping Point, today. So another kind of notable release out there that's somewhat interesting to prog fans and should be a cool one to check out. So that's something I'm going to be checking out and I have some interest in, so I thought I'd mention that. So those are some of the new releases as kind of our first item on the list today. So I thought those were some cool things. So yeah, let's see. Number 2, we've got a new release from the band Kaipa, a legendary Swedish progressive folk fusion progressive band. Kaipa, very much in the very symphonic and very kind of retro sounding, very distinguished kind of sound, similar kind of along the lines of like a Flower Kings and those styles of bands, harkening back to kind of that classic symphonic sound. I believe Kaipa, they were an older band from back in the 70s featuring a kind of younger Roina Stolt, but have kind of been revitalized in this newer era with kind of this newer version of the group. I believe in the first iterations, Roy Stolt was kind of a part of it, but he has since kind of moved on from it. But the main writer of the group is Hans Lundin, who's been kind of the long-term member of the group. And so this is their 14th studio album, Urskog, and it features a new drummer, which I thought was kind of interesting. They've had an incredible drummer for a long time, but I guess their previous drummer had to somewhat move on to do some other things. So we've got a new a new drummer as part of the group, so that's kind of an interesting. Darby Todd from London, so kind of cool to see a new member on board. There's a cool trailer, and you can check it out. I'll put it in the description where you can check out all the different sounds and things. They have a very certain sound, so it sounds definitely in the vein of what they usually do. I think especially the keyboard sounds is just, there's a very distinct sound that Hans Lenden uses on his keyboards, and the singing, and it's a very, very cool sound. And it seems from this description of it, it's taking the listener on a breathtaking journey through the Swedish wilderness and the changing seasons. So there's 6 new compositions on it. So this is just breaking news today. I pre-ordered the album. It's out there for being able to pre-order and all of that stuff. So should be a cool release that I'm pretty excited about. And if you guys like the same kind of prog music that I do, some of that modern kind of symphonic cool stuff like the Flower Kings, and modern transatlantic and stuff like that, this should definitely be up your wheelhouse, I think. So definitely check out the trailer if you have an interest in that. So definitely looking forward to that release. Item number 3 here, Pineapple Thief is announcing a release of Give It Back. This seems to be a rewired, I guess it's called Give It Back Rewired, where it's new recorded versions of songs from their catalog, which I thought was kind of interesting. So coming out through KScope Records on May 13th. It sounds like basically what happened. Gavin Harrison, who of course is a notable drummer in the prog sphere, he drummed with Porcupine Tree notably, joined the band for these last couple albums that they've done. And so it's kind of him going through the back catalog. I'm sure he's been playing a lot of this music live and stuff and putting his own spin and take on that music. And so it's him kind of picking through the catalog and doing his own takes on these songs, kind of reworking them, doing new drumming, but also it sounds like there's some new parts to the songs, bringing in extra verses, new parts, bringing maybe new lyrics and different things. So they're really trying to make this a new cool release with some new different kind of things going on in the mix. So should be a pretty cool release. I'm pretty excited about it. There's already a track from it, the Give It Back, I think, kind of the title track of the project. So that is probably a good one to give you an indication of what to expect on the record. It seems like it's going to be available in several different formats, as a 2-disc CD and Blu-ray, black vinyl LP, and digital. So definitely something to check out if you're a fan of the Pineapple Thief, and I think they're a really notable, cool band that's worth checking out, that has kind of that modern aesthetic, kind of similar to like a Porcupine Tree, like I've been saying, and just a really cool band to check out that I think, I didn't follow them earlier on, but as they've developed, and especially with the addition of Gavin Harrison, I feel like they've kind of reached a new level and have been really exciting to follow. So definitely one I'm going to be checking out. Headline number 4, just a quick kind of hit here for item number 4, is Haken had a little video on Facebook announcing that they're done writing their new album number 7. So there should be new music fairly soon, they promised in that little clip. So of course the writing's done, but there's probably a lot more process to be done of recording and mixing and mastering, all that sort of stuff. So it could be a while yet till we see the album materialize, but it's cool that it's kind of coming to fruition and that they're excited about the music that they're writing. And this is the first album with kind of the switch up of their new keyboard player. They brought Pete Jones to the fold, who was actually an original member of the group, but hasn't been with them for most of their releases and catalog to this point. So it should be interesting. They had kind of the 1-2 punch of Vector and Virus, which were pretty heavy records that kind of fit together almost as like companion albums. So it'll be interesting to see where they move from here, if they kind of continue to embrace this heavy sound, maybe go back to a bit of their proggier roots from like Aquarius and Visions and so forth. But they're a band that I love, heavy for a lot of people, I would imagine, very quirky, but a lot of fun. One of the most notable newer prog bands in my estimation. I think they're just incredible live, incredible at what they do. Their albums are just really, really pristine and sound great. And of course, Ross Jennings, who I've been mentioning as a member up here of Troika, is of course the lead singer of Haken. That's kind of his main gig. So of course, there's a lot of connections there with him. And he's been doing a lot of stuff solo. His solo record is above my head too, a little bit over here. So he's just been a really great artist, and I'm really excited for him and the whole band, and it's cool to see what they'll come up with next. One of my top favorite groups, so whenever there's even an inkling of news, I kind of want to bring it out and talk about it. So and then finally, kind of on a more somber note, on item number 5, and I kind of debate if I should include this kind of stuff on these shows, but I feel like it's big enough news that it's worth mentioning. I just I like to keep the shows kind of more light and fun, but I do want to cover everything that's fairly important here. Number 5 is the passing of Gary Brooker from Procol Harum, singer and pianist. Unfortunately passed away at age 76 on February 19th. So it says he'd been receiving treatment for cancer, but passed away peacefully at his home. Of course, Procol Harum is a notable band from back, mostly known for their material from the 60s. Their song A Wider Shade of Pale, which is really a signature piece from them, with Brooker's mournful vocals and haunting electric piano work. So he's very much at the fore of some of their biggest work, and was an important member of the group. The band split in 1977, and he continued to do some solo material and work with other artists like George Harrison. So definitely had a great long career, and was a great musician and person in the business, and who had, Procol Harum is definitely one of kind of like a proto-prog kind of group, one of the groups that kind of led to prog music because of their embracing of bigger pieces of music and doing things a little bit different and more expansive. And so they're definitely a notable band that kind of led to the development of progressive rock. So definitely a notable musician that deserves to be honored, and that I wanted to mention his passing so that we can remember him fondly and be able to maybe listen to some of that music and have that remembrance. So just wanted to mention that as kind of the last main item on my list. So those are kind of the main things I wanted to touch on. There's definitely a few other smaller items that I was kind of taking note of. There's a little video that I saw of like this Flower Kings trivia with Roina Stolt and Jonas Lindberg, who just had a notable new release. That's on YouTube. I'll put that in the description, kind of a fun little contest, just like little facts about the Flower Kings if you're interested in the group, and was kind of a fun little thing where they seemed like they were having a lot of fun. And then I thought this was cool. There's a new single from a band called Lobate Scarp, kind of a more underground kind of prog band that probably isn't very well known, but they have some interesting guest stars on their upcoming album and on this single. Some Spock Spirit alumni, keyboard player Ryo Okamoto, former drummer Jimmy Keegan are guesting on it. And on their album, they have some guest appearances by Billy Sherwood from Yes, and John Davison as well. So something worth checking out. It's an album I'm kind of interested in. I believe they've released the album to their like crowdfunding supporters, but the wide release is still to come. I think it's in April, if I remember correctly. So that's definitely a prog-related release to look out for in the near future. So yeah, those are the main items. I have links and stuff in the description if you're interested. Check it out. I have links to different YouTube videos, different songs that I thought were notable in the prog sphere that you can check out. So definitely, I always include that stuff. The description is kind of a cool place to kind of check out any of that stuff that you might be interested in. Try to make it kind of this one-stop shop of all your prog news as much as possible. So yeah, so that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. I see, wanted to mention in the chat, Alumni, hello. I will definitely say hi to Jana. And we had a small trip to Seattle this week to go see the Neil Morse band. It was kind of a gift from my parents for my birthday, so it was kind of a cool cool special occasion. My birthday was actually last August, and the original concert was supposed to be in October last year, but it got moved forward into this year because of COVID and all of that stuff that was going on. They were able to successfully do their tour this time. They had a lot of great dates that I've heard a lot of great reviews from, and of course the show I saw was amazing. It was a short trip to Seattle. It was a little bit hectic because we were with my parents and we were unfamiliar with the area and kind of crazy to get around in the busy city. We were all not really used to like this crowded city and driving through the city and stuff, so it was kind of crazy but it was fun, and the concert itself was just amazing. They really were incredible with what they were able to do, and they just every song was just note perfect to me. The sound quality, just everything was amazing, and my parents and my wife really loved it. I plan to do some kind of review of the concert with my wife over the weekend. Not sure when it will come out. We took some video and some photos and things. Maybe we'll include that in the video. I'm not sure what's appropriate to put on YouTube and stuff, but we'll see. I'll try to make that a kind of a fun show where we talk about our experience in a little bit more depth. So that was kind of the week that I had. Also this week I released 2 Prog album reviews. The first one being Star 1, Revel in Time, which was a lot of fun to cover. It's a super fun album where it just details all of these sci-fi stories. Each song is based on a different time travel themed sci-fi movie or show, and so it's a super fun release. I had a lot of fun talking about it. Just really fun music out there. So that was a cool one. And then Jonas Lindberg released Miles from Nowhere, which hasn't gotten much attention. I know he's kind of a more obscure artist, but I think a lot of people that like the prog that I like would like his music. It's very much in the vein of Flower King, Spock's Beard, Transatlantic, all of the bands that I always speak highly of. So if you haven't checked that one out, I think it's a worthy one to look at. Just wanted to point that out. So I thought those were some fun albums to talk about. I see in the chat here, K Wizardo, hi as well. Asked if aren't I in the LA area? Yeah, I do live near LA. We're about an hour and a half or so drive away from the city, so we're not really in the heart of the busy city, and we don't go into the city very much. But yeah, LA does get crazy. I always have trouble. I've talked about this a lot, I feel like, on the channel of like how I have a lot of anxiety going to concerts. A lot of them take place obviously in LA because that's kind of the center of everything here, and it's always nerve-wracking to drive into LA for similar reasons. It can be crazy and hard to navigate and just like hard to figure out how to get here and there. So that's always the debate in my mind. Is it worth going into LA to see this band or to do this thing? And oftentimes we don't, but sometimes we do. And it kind of depends. And it was kind of funny. We'll probably mention this when we talk about the Neil Morse band review, but when we originally when my parents gave me the gift for the tickets to Seattle, I had mentioned the Neil Morse band tour and was kind of like sad that they weren't coming here to California, and was like kind of disappointed and figured I just wouldn't be able to see them. So my dad found that the closest they were playing us was Seattle. So that's why he planned this kind of whole trip around going to see them for kind of a birthday surprise. But when they rescheduled the dates, they announced a couple additional dates, and they actually ended up playing in LA a lot closer to where we are. So, but we had already booked our whole trip. We had booked flights and booked a hotel, and I don't think we could get a refund on the tickets and all this kind of stuff. So we just decided to stick with it, make a little trip out of it, and kind of ended up being a fun experience. So, I think it was worth it, but it was kind of funny to find out that we could have just done it here in LA and not had to deal with all of the traveling and the big expense of going out there. But it ended up working out, so that was kind of fun. All right. So beyond that, trying to think of what's coming up on the show. Like I mentioned, there's going to be some coverage of the Troika album. Not sure exactly how that's going to pan out, but I'll definitely let all of you know when the review is released, and I'll probably do a little bit of a show and put it up probably pretty soon, maybe even this weekend. More Jana Reacts coming up that I think should be fun, that you guys should like. We did a Tool reaction, which I know is maybe a bit polarizing because maybe some people are more into the older school prog or don't really like kind of the more metal, kind of heavier sound. And so I'm always kind of cognizant of that and aware of that. But I feel like I have to kind of mix it up and put some of that stuff in because a lot of people do like the Tool reactions as well. So I'm trying to balance it, but I know a lot of my fans and a lot of people who watch Jana Reacts tend to like the more old school prog, and we definitely try to lean on that more than anything else. But, basically I that's why I leave it up to random choice, so I don't feel responsible. I just put every song that was on this like prog anthems list from Prog Magazine, and just whatever shuffles in and comes up, that's just basically what we do. And so it wasn't really, my choice to cover Tool, but they happen to be part of that list. And I've gotten different recommendations and things that I throw in. I try to put in pretty much anything as long as it's a reasonable request. So, and that's the nature of these types of things, that there's going to be songs that you prefer over others and weeks where it's going to be like not as exciting to you, but, it's going to be interesting, and we'll shuffle into something you'll like eventually. So that's just part of the show. Maybe it's more of that like anxiety coming up of me like worrying about everybody, will these people like this? Well, am I going to isolate certain people when I do something too heavy or too off the beaten path? But I think we've had a pretty good mix so far. So, and it sounds like in the chat that people are cool with it. So that's really encouraging. So thanks everybody. I appreciate that. And so there's a lot of cool new prog albums coming out that I'm going to be talking about soon. I'm going to do a cool show. I think most people kind of like it when I do this. I'm doing what I call New Music Shuffle, which is just me kind of doing a catch up of all the different prog albums that have come out in the last little while that I thought were notable and good recommendations, but I haven't had time to do a full review. I do full reviews for kind of the bigger prog releases throughout the year, at least for me, the big ones like, I thought the Big Train was a huge one. I have a lot of Big Train fans here, and I'm a huge fan of them. Flower Kings coming up is a big band that I think is very notable to cover on its own, but there's a lot of cool, more obscure kind of prog bands out there releasing cool things. So I kind of combine them into what I call New Music Shuffle to give a bunch of recommendations to albums that you may not have heard about or that may have passed your radar, or a lot of you probably do know about and are excited about as well. But maybe you'll have fun hearing me talk about it. So that's coming up next week. So I'm really, really excited. So, and then there's a couple cool releases coming up that I'll definitely cover from Flower Kings and Marillion. And so definitely going to be fun to talk about all that. So I think that's pretty much the show today. I think those are the main things I wanted to cover. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed the show here. I'm grateful for the people in the chat. Kind of all the comments are very positive, and I'm very grateful. I was always nervous to do this because I'm like, what kind of comments could I possibly get? Is it going to be weird or different? But so far it's been such a fun thing to do and really helpful. So I'm really, really grateful for you guys and for your positivity and willing to go along with the things I do and be so cool about it, basically, is what's really cool to me. So, Alumni, that's a good point. Yeah, some of these bigger reactions and big bands like Tool can maybe draw in some new listeners, and then they'll go through some of the other songs and learn more about prog music and become fans of that stuff. I have that happen every so often where like someone will come in on like a new Tool reaction, for example, and then they'll start like going back through our back catalog of reactions and start commenting on those, and it's really fun. So, really cool. So thank you guys so much for joining me. Hopefully you guys had fun here today and enjoyed the show, and I'll be back doing the same thing next week. So I plan to kind of keep this as a regular appointment unless something, is happening where I can't, have some prior appointment or something, or, we're out of town or whatnot. And when Jen is available, I'll maybe have her join as well. So thank you guys so much, and hopefully I'll catch you guys in another video, and hopefully you guys are enjoying the music out there, whatever you guys are listening to and enjoying. Please let me know. And if there's anything you want to draw my attention towards and have me listen to see if I want to cover it on a future episode, I'm more than willing to listen. So thank you guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye.